All right, take a breath with me for a second, because what you're about to hear is not a confirmed expose, not a palace press release, and definitely not a tidy official version of events. This is rumor territory, whisper networks, the kind of story that lives in raised eyebrows, careful wording, and those awkward silences where no one wants to say the thing out loud, but everyone's thinking it. And yeah, before we go any further, hit like if you enjoy these deep dives, subscribe if you're into royal intrigue told like a late-night conversation, and stick around. This one unfolds slowly, and the details matter. So, let's set the scene. There's been a lot of talk lately about stress, pressure, family strain, and how even people born into unimaginable privilege can still feel overwhelmed. One source close to the situation described it like this: the job itself? Manageable. The public role? Fine. But the family side of things? Apparently that's where the weight really sits. The kind of weight that doesn't show up in official schedules or smiling photo ops. Now here's where the rumor mill really starts to spin. According to multiple accounts circulating among royal watchers in the UK and abroad, there was a live television moment that caught everyone off guard. A moment that wasn't teased, wasn't leaked ahead of time, and wasn't softened by palace spin. Prince William, during what was supposed to be a calm, controlled appearance, allegedly made a brief remark about Meghan Markle that landed like a dropped glass in a quiet room. Not dramatic, not angry, just precise. And that's what made people uneasy. Within minutes, social media supposedly lit up, commentators scrambled, headlines were quietly rewritten. Royal watchers, the hardcore kind who notice micro-expressions and phrasing choices, allegedly sat there thinking, wait, did he really just say that? Now, no transcript has ever been officially confirmed, no palace clarification followed, which, if you've followed this family long enough, you know is often louder than a denial. What's being whispered is that this wasn't gossip, it wasn't a leak, it was said on air, calmly, intentionally. And if that's true, then the timing matters. Because this moment didn't come out of nowhere. Behind the scenes, there's been chatter for years about tension that never really cooled, just went quiet. And by late 2025, the silence reportedly stopped working. When Prince William appeared in a relaxed, pub-style interview setting at Windsor Castle, chatting casually with a well-known North American actor, viewers expected charm, light humor, maybe a line or two about travel, environment, or family life. What they allegedly got instead was something heavier, more human, more revealing. He reportedly described the past year as brutal, not challenging, not difficult, brutal. Cancer battles within his immediate family, the pressure of stepping up, the reality of watching the people you love face their own limits. And for someone known for emotional restraint, that level of openness alone raised eyebrows. But royal watchers are trained to listen between the lines. As the story goes, while he spoke about health and hardship, there were subtle contrasts being drawn about duty, about privacy, about how children are raised when cameras are everywhere. He allegedly emphasized the importance of giving his children both security and a sense of normal life, protecting them from the kind of exposure that leaves scars. On the surface, that sounds like any thoughtful parent talking, but commentators immediately began whispering that this was a quiet comparison, not named, not explicit, but understood. And here's where the rumor deepens. Some believe this was a veiled critique of another approach to family life, one that involves documentaries, streaming deals, personal storytelling on a global scale, all while insisting on privacy. To royal traditionalists in the UK especially, that contradiction has always been uncomfortable. If you're watching from the US, you might hear that and think that's just modern media. If you're in the UK, particularly among royal watchers, it lands very differently. Now keep watching, because this is where things reportedly got sharper. Around the same period, whispers began circulating that King Charles was quietly considering a holiday reconciliation. Christmas, neutral ground, a soft reset. Health scares have a way of making people think about unfinished business, after all. But according to palace-adjacent chatter, that idea hit a wall, hard.
Multiple sources claim that when the idea of Meghan Markle returning to the UK in any kind of family capacity was floated, Prince William's response was immediate and firm. No theatrics, no shouting, just a flat refusal. The phrase being repeated in royal circles, "over my dead body." Now, is that exact wording confirmed? No, this is rumor, but the consistency of the message across different outlets has raised eyebrows. The sentiment, at least, seems to align. The alleged reasoning wasn't personal resentment, according to these whispers. It was institutional, a belief that certain lines, once crossed, don't uncross, that bringing certain dynamics back into the fold would destabilize something that's already fragile. And that belief, if true, marks a shift. For years, the strategy was silence, let the noise burn itself out, never complain, never explain. But this sounded like a door closing. And then came what many online started calling the real power move. In early 2025, Prince William announced a leadership change within his flagship environmental initiative. On paper, it looked like a standard executive appointment, experienced professional, smooth transition, polite statements. But royal watchers noticed the name. The new CEO, according to public records, was someone long associated with past internal complaints involving Meghan Markle. Complaints that were never publicly resolved, investigations that concluded quietly, allegations that both sides fiercely dispute. Now, pause here, this is important. There is no public ruling, no released findings, nothing legally definitive, which means everything that follows lives firmly in rumor and interpretation. But symbolism matters in royal culture. To critics of Meghan, this appointment allegedly signaled validation. To her supporters, it looked like provocation. To palace staff, some say it felt like a message about loyalty and boundaries. Online, people started speculating wildly. Was this intentional, a coincidence, or a carefully calculated signal? And the timing made it harder to dismiss. This appointment reportedly landed just as Meghan was attempting to pivot her public image. New brand, lifestyle focus, less royal drama, more California calm. At least that was the narrative. But suddenly, old controversies were back in the spotlight. UK audiences largely split. Some praised the move as decisive leadership, others called it petty. US commentary leaned more skeptical, questioning whether a future king should wade into personal history at all. International viewers, mostly fascinated, because let's be honest, no family does quiet conflict like this one. And then came the money rumors.
This is where things get especially icy. By late 2025, reports began circulating that Prince William, now overseeing more of the family's financial structures, had allegedly drawn a hard line. No more royal funds, no indirect support, no quiet assistance flowing west. Again, not confirmed, but repeated enough to gain traction. Harry, by this point, had come into inherited funds from long-established trusts, money legally his, money set aside precisely because he would never inherit the crown. But the duchy? That's different. That estate now sits firmly under William's control, and the rumor is that access has been completely cut off. The alleged reasoning? Optics for one. Cost of living pressures in the UK, the idea of royal-linked wealth funding commercial ventures abroad while ordinary people struggle didn't sit well with him, according to sources. There's also talk of frustration over titles being used in branding while simultaneously rejecting royal responsibility. That contradiction, if the rumors are accurate, has become intolerable. Some even whisper that legal consultations are underway about how titles can be used commercially, not to strip them outright, but to set limits. Whether that happens or not is anyone's guess. What's clear, at least in the court of public opinion, is that this no longer feels like a temporary rift. This feels structural. Money, once separated, rarely reunites people. And for many watching from the UK, the US, and everywhere in between, this looks less like sibling drama and more like a permanent fork in the road. So here's where I throw it to you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do these rumored moves sound like necessary boundaries or unnecessary escalation? Are titles compatible with commercial empires, or should there be a clean break? If you're into these long, slow burn breakdowns, make sure you're subscribed. Like the video if this helped you see the bigger picture, and share it with that friend who always says there's more going on here. Alright, let's keep going, because the story doesn't actually end where most people think it does. If anything, that's where it gets quieter, and somehow even more intense. What a lot of royal watchers keep coming back to is how deliberate everything feels now. Not emotional, not reactive, deliberate. And that's what makes the rumors so unsettling. There's this growing belief among palace observers that Prince William has moved into a completely different mindset. Less brother, more future king. Less, maybe one day we'll fix this, and more, this is the line and it's not moving. And you can feel it in the absence. No public birthday messages anymore, no quiet olive branches slipped into speeches, no carefully staged moments where the press can say, look, they're thawing. Instead, there's just nothing. Silence where warmth used to be. And in royal terms, that silence is deafening. One UK-based commentator put it bluntly, and again, this is rumor and interpretation, not fact. They said William isn't angry anymore. He's done. And there's a big difference between those two things. Anger still hopes for a reaction. Being done doesn't. Now, let's talk about the psychological side of this for a second, because this is where international audiences sometimes miss the nuance. In the US, cutting someone off financially or professionally is often framed as harsh or vindictive. In the UK, especially within old institutions, it's framed as consequence. You step out of the structure no longer supports you. End of story. And insiders say William believes that line was crossed years ago. There's also persistent talk that William feels deeply protective not just of the monarchy, but of his children. He remembers what it felt like growing up with every family argument splashed across tabloids. He remembers how private pain became public spectacle, and the idea that the next generation could be pulled into anything resembling that chaos reportedly terrifies him. So when people ask, why so firm now, some royal watchers answer with one word: prevention. Prevention of leaks, prevention of narratives he can't control, prevention of history repeating itself. And here's where things get especially uncomfortable. There are whispers that William no longer trusts intentions, that every move from California is viewed through a strategic lens, not an emotional one. Book deals, interviews, brand launches, even silence is read as positioning. Fair or not, that's the mindset people say he's operating in. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the Sussex camp is rumored to feel blindsided by just how final everything has become. There was allegedly an assumption that time would soften things, that once emotions cooled, the door would crack open again, even just a little. But what seems to have happened instead is the opposite. Every attempt to move forward independently appears, from London's perspective, to reinforce the separation. The more commercial the ventures become, the less room there is for ambiguity. You're either in the institution or you're a brand operating outside it. And William, if the rumors are true, has chosen to treat the Sussexes as the latter. That's why the financial lockdown story hit so hard in the UK. It wasn't about punishment, it was about classification. You're not family within the system anymore, you're external, and externals don't get access. What really shocked people, though, is how methodical it all feels. This isn't one dramatic announcement. It's a series of quiet decisions that, taken together, form a wall. Staffing choices, funding boundaries, legal consultations, strategic silence. No press conference required. And for those still hoping for reconciliation, this is the part that hurts the most, because nothing here looks temporary. Temporary conflicts have flexibility. This has structure. There's even speculation that William is intentionally allowing public opinion to do what he won't, letting people slowly adjust to the idea that this split isn't tragic or explosive anymore. It's settled, normalized, boring even. And that might be the most brutal outcome of all, because once something becomes boring, it stops being fixable. Now, to be fair, not everyone agrees with this approach. Plenty of voices, especially outside the UK, argue that it's too rigid, that family should come before optics, that institutions should bend, not harden. and that debate isn't going away anytime soon. But what's clear is this: the fairy tale version of one big reunion has quietly faded, not with a scandal, not with a fight, but with paperwork, policy, and polite distance. And if these rumors are even half true, then what we're watching isn't a feud anymore, it's a transition. One brother stepping fully into the role he's been preparing for his entire life, even if it means leaving the other behind. So I want to hear from you. Do you think this level of firmness is necessary for the future of the monarchy, or does it cross into something colder than it needs to be? Is this leadership or loss? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely read them. If this kind of slow burn, rumor-based breakdown is your thing, hit like, subscribe, and stick with the channel. There's a lot more beneath the surface here, and we're going to keep unpacking it. Thanks, truly, for spending your time with me. I appreciate you more than you know.